Bright Tuty. Every student matters.
Moving on to the part that we always do towards the end of the session is the assignment questions. What is social structure? We have talked about social structure, that you have certain needs, and to fulfill those needs you have interactions involved, you have variety of people involved in from one group to another. All of these structure which has the component, which has the arrangement and the resulting of one unit, that makes it a social structure. Moving on to what they say, what is meant by status. Now, status means the position that is occupied by an individual in the group, in the society. Position occupied by an individual in the group, in the society, is known as social status. What is an ascribed status? Something that is biologically there with us, or something that is by birth there with us. For example, sex and age, those are ascribed status. Sorry. What are roles? So the behavior expected out of you, owing to the status that you hold in the society, is known as what the roles. What is the status set? When you have multiple statuses involved, the totality of all the statuses that an individual has is known as status set. What is role set? Again, when you have multiple roles involved, and at times when you have to enact, or when you have to perform as per those statuses in the roles, and you have the collection of all the roles has the role set involved. Talking about what are multiple roles, when you as an individual have several statuses, and hence you have several roles to perform, that makes it multiple role situation. Talking about what are roles train, when being a part of one status group, you have to do one aspect, and because of you being the part of another status group, you have to do another aspect, and there is this conflict. Okay, sorry, there is this conflict that you face, comes under this social or this role strain. Moving to what are role conflicts, again, when the situation, in the situation you are able to fulfill either of the roles, and not all the roles that you have as an individual, is known as role conflict. Talking about, give the meaning of social norms. Norms are those rules or standards of behavior which are accepted in the society by the people. So this is what is known as social norms. They have talked about what are norms. Again, you have got your answer. Talking about who used the term social norm for the first time, we do have M. Sharif, who used the term social norms for the first time. Talking about, going ahead to what are folkways, when you have approved standards, you have approved standards of behavior, and which are being passed on from one generation to another, is known as the folkways. Talking about who introduced the term, it was William Graham who introduced the term folkways? It is William Graham Sumner, Sumner. Give one example of folkways. They have talked about how you eat and how you walk, how you dress up. All of these are the how you dress, walk, eat are the examples of folkways. Moving ahead to what are mores, it has morals and ethical behavior involved. So the practices which are morally and ethically accepted are known as mores. Talking about customs, these are socially accepted ways in which people do things in person contact. So it is socially accepted ways of people taking actions in personal contacts. Moving on to what are social values. It is the shared ideas about what is right and what is wrong, what is desirable and what is undesirable, that makes it and that is a part of the social value. Moving ahead are the questions of differentiating between achieved and ascribed status. We have talked about it. Achieved status is something like your career or your class. You can achieve that. Here, your ascribed status in terms of India, if we talk about, is your caste. This is something that you are born in. This is something which is there with you by birth and cannot change. Distinguish between status sets and master status. So basically your status sets is the combination, or you have the in totality what all statuses that you hold makes it a status set, and one of the dominant status that you have in your society is the master status. Moving on to defining the concept of status and role with examples, we have just discussed it in the previous slides. Is role and status two separate concepts or two aspects of same phenomena? This is very, very interesting. Your status is and role are interrelated. Whatever status that you hold in the society is according to that status only you perform your roles, and hence these are interrelated and hence are the two aspects of the same phenomena that we have been talking about, that is the social structure. So the next question that we are going to talk about is the what is role sets, and describe the role sets of a doctor in a hospital. We have talked about what are role sets. We have talked about how the combination or how your roles in accordance to what all entities or to what all you are being a part of as an individual comes in together, comes in totality and makes a role set. So the all the demands which are there as per your roles, as per the different roles that you have, makes it a role set. If you talk about the doctor, a doctor again has a role of being a doctor. They have a role of being a human being, wherein they do understand the other person's perspective. They might be parents or son, daughter, etc., and that's how their role sets are. Moving ahead, what is meant by role constraint and role conflict? We have just talked about in the previous slides also what does role strain and role conflict mean. Again, moving on to what is prescriptive and proscriptive norms. Prescriptive norms are the ones which are being defined as something, which are the norms which are being talked about, that which are being told. Certainly they have been certain types, they are required certain aspects of norms. However, prescriptive ones are the norms that have the forbid. They are forbidden, and there are certain types of behavior that are forbidden and are known as the prescriptive norms. Moving ahead, distinguish between folkways and mores. We have just talked about folkways, how in you have an understanding of, and mores as well, how in here there are certain actions which are passed on, certain acceptable actions which are passed on from one generation to another. Here it is more talking about on the moral and the ethical sense of the norms. Moving ahead, what is the importance of value? We have one proper introduction of importance of value. It provides stability. It helps in keeping people closer, or hold together, or it brings legitimacy. It is accepted all around. All of these factors make it important. Bring out the relationship between norms and values. Again, norms are some things which are acceptable, which are generally in action form. Herein, values are more to do with morals, more to do with what your thinking is, what your understanding about one particular aspect is. Now, however, your understanding would be, your actions will be influenced by that. However, your actions would be, your understanding will be influenced by that. And that is how both of these factors are connected. Moving ahead to essay type questions. What is social structure? Describe various elements. We have talked about it all throughout. We have just seen what is social structure and talked about various elements. Those are social norms, social values, social roles, and also the aspect of social status involved, which makes all the elements and can be talked about. Briefly explain the elements. Again, referring to all of these, we can briefly explain it. What is status? Define its different types. We have just talked about what is status and have talked about what is ascribed and achieved status, which are the two types of statuses which are present, wherein ascribed status is the status wherein you have something by birth, and achieved status is something that you can achieve in life with your personal efforts. These are what the two types of statuses is. Write short note on the following: ascribed status, we have just talked about; achieved status, we have just talked about; status sets, we have just talked about in the slide before; and master sets, again we have status, we have just talked about in the slide before. Moving ahead, describe in your own words the different types of norms. You have read about all the different types of norms. You can describe it in your own words. What is the importance of values in our society? Explain with examples. In the previous slide also we have talked about the importance of values. I have given you what all here only, that what all are the importance of values. You can explain that aspect. Give the meaning of norms and values. Explain the relationship. We back here only talked about the relationship between norms and values and the meanings in the previous slides. You may attempt those questions as well. I hope you were able to understand the whole concept of social structure, the all four elements of social structure, be it social status, social roles, social norm, and also the social values around it. And you are able to answer all of these questions. Thank you so much for your time.